You were there.
Yes, I was.
And when Floyd came out,
and I'm still sitting in the same hotel room.
But you've not been there for
hotel.
17. You've not been there for 17 years since the Floyd fight. It just seems like it. I'm here for you. But when Floyd came out in the sombrero with the red, green, and white trunks and shoes to go right full villain right at De La Hoya, that was tremendous in the buildup. Well, you were there for all of it. Go ahead.
He had been full villain the entire promotion. That's one of the things that built the fight. I mean, he did it all through the press tour. He did it when he was calling Oscar out before they even had the fight made. This was a mega fight of mega fights. It was so, it crossed over to the mainstream. It was on the front cover of Sports Illustrated, the fight to save boxing, which was complete bullshit because boxing didn't need saving, much less from this fight. But nonetheless, that's some of the popular narrative of the time. They called it The World Awaits, which was hype, but actually was kind of true.
Am I not correct? This was the first time, you will correct me if I'm wrong, that HBO did the 24/7 and did the buildup. I believe it was the first time, and it was phenomenal in hyping the fight for that couple of weeks, 2 or 3 weeks before the actual one, because the 24/7 access with the fighters. I think that was the first time they had done it, and it was wildly successful in building the fight up, which was the whole idea.
24/7 was fantastic, absolutely fantastic. And that was the first one. I mean, it got to a point where 24/7 was now doing shows and mini series. This was a 4-part series, but they would do them over and over. So by the time you had seen, say, Floyd or Manny Pacquiao or one of the other popular fighters that was on pay-per-view in their multiple chapter of 24/7, it kind of got redundant and repetitive. They still was produced beautifully, but the first one was spectacular. Put it like this: it actually made news. Those of us who were boxing journalists, because we didn't see the episode before it aired, they might have because they were doing it in real time essentially.
Right.
That you would have to watch it when it aired live on Sunday night. And by the way, at that time, HBO was still a juggernaut with like The Sopranos and Sex and the City, and they would put 24/7 right in the wheelhouse of that Sunday night programming block, and it would do huge numbers. There were episodes of 24/7, both in terms of Oscar and Floyd, as well as some subsequent series, that the ratings for the preview would do bigger numbers than like a live fight. And it's obviously much, much cheaper to produce, a half an hour, docuseries like that than to produce and pay license fees for gigantic boxing matches. So that was a really big deal when it happened. Now, in terms of and also they did a big press tour. I remember one of the stops was in Washington, D.C. So obviously I went into, to take that in. And they did it in the Union Station, which is the big train station and right on Capitol Hill in Washington. And there was like 1 million people who just traveled through there every day that knew about this fight because of the fact that they were doing this in front of them as they're walking by. I mean, just non-boxing people. This was an astronomical fight. And when it was over, it had, it's been subsequently broken, obviously, by fights like Floyd Mayweather and Conor McGregor and Floyd Mayweather against Manny Pacquiao. But at the time, this fight shattered every single record you could conceive of, whether it was the gate, the sponsors, the pay-per-view overall. In fact, it was such a big pay-per-view, and it's the only time I can ever think of that this ever happened. I think it is the only time this ever happened. That was back when they would announce the pay-per-view numbers, especially if they were hugely successful.
Right.
They'd put out a number on this fight. I believe they announced 2.2 million, which there had never been a fight that had exceeded 2 million. So it blew away everything. And it was like the highest pay-per-view at the time, too. So the revenues were like off the chart. A few months later, the pay-per-views are still coming in from various sources. They actually sent out an amended announcement that raised the pay-per-view total from the 2.2 that I believe was the initial announcement to 2.4 million pay-per-views. They made crazy, crazy, crazy money in this fight. Oscar had made huge amounts of money previously in his career, but this was the one that was his biggest payday by far and away. And like the 24/7 was so great because you had the back and forth with Floyd Sr. and with Freddie Roach and the two fighters and the totally different kind of personalities. The fight itself, it was good, but it was not great. And Oscar had a tremendous opportunity to beat Floyd Mayweather. His jab was superb that night, and it was like he knew it. He had won a lot of rounds in the first half of the fight, and like his jab became a rumor after like round 6 or so, and Mayweather ended up winning. It was, if I recall, it was a split decision. One of the judges actually gave it to Oscar De La Hoya by 2 points, but the other judges gave it to Floyd by 7-5 and 6-4. So that's about as close a call as Floyd's had in his career. And he had a lot of trouble with Oscar, who was mobile, who was taller, who was longer, and when he used the jab, gave Floyd all kinds of fits. So I'm not gonna say Floyd got lucky because obviously the onus is on Oscar to get the jab rolling and keep it going. But Floyd was close to losing that night.
But it's a signature win, one of the signature wins for Floyd
Oh,
Mayweather.
you want to talk about the star power. I mean, you could not walk around the casino.
What do you recall about who was around you and who was there around ringside that night? Give me some names.
Oh, I get a lot of them mixed up because I've seen so many of the superstars over the years. But I mean, all the Hollywood A-list. You know what I mean? Like
Denzel Washington would frequently be at those fights.
Yeah, I mean those. I don't know if he specifically was there, but certainly
Tom Brady.
I don't know who they were, but I'm telling you, it was like I remember like looking around, like everybody was there. I think it was like Brad Pitt and Angelina Jolie were there, and Tiger Woods was there, and just all kinds of from sports and from Hollywood, and whether you're a TV star or movie star, these guys brought out. I mean, it was huge. Just huge anticipation for this fight. Like if I was making a list of forget about how the fight happened and what happened in the fight, whether it was good, bad, or otherwise, just in terms of public anticipation for fights I have covered, this was in the top few that there have been.